The seminar was well attended by art administrators, teachers and students from the Hunter region. The organisers say it provided an ideal opportunity to hear speakers from the Arts Council, the Premier's Department and the Visual Arts Board. Mr John Delacour from the Visual Arts Board says the amount of money made available to visual arts is not in proportion to its popularity.
Below, the Tavistock report revealed that the visual arts are the most popular art form in terms of the general population. People would prefer to go and see an art exhibition or a craft exhibition or something related like that than to almost any other arts-related activity. Funding for the visual arts is proportionately lower than for any other art form.
Has new federal government promised any extra funding for the visual arts?
Not as far as I'm aware, and I think that my perception, and this is as an individual citizen rather than a member of the Visual Arts Board, is that the federal government is extremely reluctant to raise expectations that funding will go back to the level of the Whitlam years.
Meanwhile, at the College of Advanced Education, an enrichment day was in progress. 400 Year 12 Home Economics and Textile students from as far afield as Tamworth and Taree converged on the college for the one-day seminar. It was a chance to experiment and use facilities not normally available to high school students, as organiser Faith Trent explains.
I think that the home economics syllabus is so full and so complex, since it draws on 3 different disciplines, that teachers really find it very difficult to be expert in all 3 areas. And so what we've tried to do is to get people from outside who have expertise in the particular areas and therefore allow the students to explore in more depth some of the issues that may have just been passed over in the classroom.
Thirty-three-year-old Mr Peter Burton left his home in Kookaburra Parade, Woodbury at 8:30 a.m. on Sunday, May the 29th. He hasn't been seen since. He left with a large sum of money in his wife's 1964 blue and white Holden sedan. He told his wife he was going out to see about buying her a new car.
The car was recovered by police from this car park at the Newcastle College of Advanced Education on Monday the 6th of June. But it was first sighted here a week earlier. A college caretaker noticed the car in the early hours of the morning on Monday the 30th of May. He said the car stood out from other vehicles left here because it had been parked incorrectly.
Police are now appealing to anyone who thinks they saw Mrs Burton's car being driven in the vicinity of the CAE on May the 29th or 30th to come forward. They are also appealing to anyone who believes they have seen the missing man. Peter Burton is described as 165 centimetres tall, with a slim build, a fair complexion, short brown hair and hazel eyes. He was last seen wearing brown trousers and a brown sloppy joe and carrying a maroon parka.
It was standing room only at the Civic Theatre as Jesus Christ Superstar opened its Newcastle season. It's more than 10 years since the show opened first in Sydney and more than 5 years since the first touring production in Newcastle, but Newcastle people seem to have taken to the show like today's hot bread. The show has been sold out since last week and people at the Civic Theatre tell me that it's one of the fastest selling shows they've ever had here. How did you enjoy the show?
It was good.
Had you seen it before?
No.
And how did you find it? Did you find it exciting?
Yeah, it was really good.
This is the first production I've seen of it.
Right. Would you recommend it?
Yes, I would, yeah.
Right, thank you. And what about you?
Fantastic. Of course I enjoyed it. It was great.
Had you seen the show before?
Yes, I had. I missed John English, that's the only thing.
Did you?
Oh, it's good.
What did you like best about it?
Singing. A bit noisy, I thought. I'd like to be able to hear the singing a lot better.
At Monday's meeting, the Newcastle City Council and the Hunter Development Board were the only ones to put forward submissions. The others came unprepared, even those who had received the confidential telex from the government. Yesterday, staff at Hunter Region Councils were busy preparing the submissions due in today. Because of the hasty deadline, elected council members have had little to do with them. They've had to leave them in the hands of council officials. The Lake Macquarie Council must be the only exception. It was able to talk about its submission at a scheduled meeting on Monday night. Nevertheless, the Lake Mayor, Alderman Jeff Pasterfield, is annoyed at the way the government has rushed councils.
Well, I think that, the fact that the notice was short should be drawn to the attention of the Commonwealth, and for whatever their reasons were for making haste, I don't know. But nevertheless, I think the important thing is to indicate that a bit more time was necessary.
Alderman Pasterfield's sentiments are shared by Councillor Roy Taylor from the Port Stephens Shire.
We tend to wonder how serious the government are in the light of the fact that some councils were not even notified of the meeting that was to take place.
The councils have made their submissions in the hope that more funds for capital works will become available to the region. The acting Premier, Mr Ferguson, is expected to make a statement on the issue later this week.
Eight metal industry unions are represented here today at a meeting called to discuss aspects
although there are a number of companies with their own schemes
and National Unions Conference in February this year. The main aim of the seminar is to help shop stewards understand accord provisions affecting wages and prices, working conditions, education and a number of other issues. The meeting in Newcastle, called by the Metal Trades Federation of Unions, is one of a number held throughout the state this week. Unions are pushing the policy accord to the fore at the moment as a means of pressuring the Labor government into sticking to the economic policies contained in the special document agreed to by unions before the Labor government was elected.
Although there are a number of companies with their own schemes and their period of notice and what we currently
Metal industry shop stewards representing 8 unions attended day-long talks at the Workers' Club to discuss
there are a number of
aspects
companies
of the
with their own
economic accord,
schemes
which was ratified at a special National Unions Conference in February this year. The accord between the ALP and the ACTU covers the labour movement's policies on wages and prices, working conditions, job creation, and a range of other issues. Meetings like this are being held throughout the state by the Metal Trades Federation of Unions in a bid to help shop stewards understand the main aspects of the accord. But metal unions are also concerned that the Labor government is not upholding the accord, which was agreed to by unions before the government was elected.
There have been a couple of instances already where we're disappointed in the government's response to a couple of key sectors in the accord, particularly the question of job protection and industry development. However, we plan to have further discussions with the government in Canberra the week after next, and hopefully we can iron those difficulties out.
Ray Waite, who has been in the breakfast chair for 2KO since the resignation of Pat Barton 12 months ago, apparently decided today to quit radio and concentrate on a number of outside business interests. Surprisingly, Ray made no mention of his move on radio this morning, but soon after he came off air, he and 2KO parted company. In his place from tomorrow morning is Mike Ahern, who sees himself as the new kid in town, up against some tough competition for #1 breakfast position in Newcastle, which will be decided in a ratings survey to be conducted next week. The company is working against time now to establish a new morning personality.
We'd be hopeful, but it makes things more awkward to get somebody established quickly again in your most important session of the day.
You've been in Newcastle almost a week now. A week?
Oh, 5 days or so, yeah.
Right. And you weren't here the first time Superstar came.
Right.
What's the reaction like to Superstar at the moment?
Now that it's sort of falling into place, it's been quite wonderful. We've done some 10:30 shows for the children, and they've been the best audience in the world. They scream and they make everybody really excited. It's nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you got another matinee to do?
We have a matinee tomorrow, but that's at a civil hour of 2 o'clock. You know.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
No early mornings?
No.
And they scream and sing and...
Oh, well, they scream, you know, like at the beginning of the show when the curtain goes up, and they sort of really receive each principal very, very well. Mm-hmm. Kids are great because you can judge how good a show is by their, their reaction.
The reaction. Where does Superstar go after Newcastle?
We go to Canberra for a week, and then we open in Sydney for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Then we take it on the road until basically about November.
It's a long time on the road.
Yeah, but we was sort of because we're on the road and it's not every night a different place because you couldn't do it with the set and the show. Yeah. So we're basically placed for 3 weeks, 2 weeks. It makes you feel quite sane.
Right. Apart from Superstar, what's Marsha Hunt's been up to?
Well, really, I just came back from Europe and the UK for promotion of my new album, Love Sides. And that was good. Right. And I did a lot of television in Germany. Work. It doesn't stop really. Yeah,
European success is quite good, I believe, at the moment for you.
Yes, it is, but it's really not worth skiting about because I'm here in Australia. So when I'm here at home, this is where I sort of concentrate where I am. Yeah. If I'm in Europe, then I'm working in Europe. If I'm in Australia, I'm home working here.
Are there any plans to tour Europe, perhaps?
I don't know. It all depends on how successful a single becomes, It's just so hypothetical. But right now, I'm really, basically tied up with the promotion of Love Sides and doing Superstars.
And the single's called?
Hot Like a Radio.
Right. Oh, it sounds all very exciting.
It is, yeah. It's really good. It's good because it's giving me... I'm doing 2 things at the moment, which is really quite good, because Superstar demands very little. And my solo career demands a lot, so I sort of have time for both of them.
You recorded your album in England. Who produced it?
My producer's an expatriate to Australia, David Mackay.
Right.
Yeah.
He did. He produced Sadie the Cleaning Lady, didn't he?
Yeah, he just met up with Johnny.
A long time ago.
He just met up with Johnny Farnham and the guys from LRB. Yeah. He hasn't seen Johnny for years, and he went and saw a concert that they had in England. He was really knocked out, and Johnny was knocked out to see him,
No immediate plans after Superstar?
Yeah, another album. I mean, that's in the makes already. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
You're going to be busy.
Well, really, it doesn't stop. You mustn't stop. When you stop, you die. Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking to us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
The development taking shape here is something that drew strong opposition at first, but it just so happens that we needed the jobs here. Many of them have gone to retrenched steel workers. Employment has reached 300, and there are 600 more jobs to be filled over the next 12 months. Construction is moving at a fast pace. Tomigo starts making aluminium in September. Gearing up for that start has given many local firms rare opportunity under the present climate. While Tomigo has had to go nationwide and sometimes worldwide for specialty work, Hundreds of contracts have been let out to this area. At first there were the obvious jobs for industrial suppliers. But now with production due to start, the field of work required has broadened. Tomigo is handing out contracts that will last long after the construction side of things winds up. The contract to transport alumina from the storage facilities at Kooragang has been let to the local operators of Aztec Transport Services, which will bring in special trucks for the job. Rundles is making special protective clothing for smelter workers, a contract that will last as long as aluminium is made. There's another Newcastle firm which has just secured its first major contract thanks to Tomigo. The installation of complicated communication systems throughout the smelter site has given General Communications its first real break. The firm is only 18 months old and it tendered for the job some other companies wouldn't touch.
The contract was put out to major manufacturers. A lot of them couldn't satisfy the requirement from their own product line, and being reluctant to use somebody else's product, they probably shied away from it. We had access to several different manufacturers and we put a package together which involves probably half a dozen different manufacturers. It's a very big job. We're very pleased to be the ones that selected to carry out the job, and it's going to go a long way in ensuring our future growth in the business in Newcastle.
The job has allowed General Communications to put on more staff. Even though Tomigo Aluminium wasn't all that welcome at first, it has demonstrated a faith in the region which is somehow hard to knock.
We're not an environmental threat anymore. We're a substantial source of employment, and the more we show people what we're doing, the more they tend to like us. I think we're probably on the list of goodies these days.
Standards Brigadier Sir Galligan was an accomplished man. Born in Jesmond in 1897, he spent 50 years as an army officer and served in both World Wars. A biography of his life has recently been published, and the author Stan Arneill was present at the function today. A leather-bound copy was presented to the Lord Mayor Alderman Joy Cummings by Black Jack's widow, Lady Kezia Galligan. When presenting the book, Lady Galligan said her husband had wished to show what a working-class boy from Newcastle could do. Among his accomplishments, Black Jack served with distinction in France during the First World War, and between 1940 and 1945, he commanded the Australian prisoners of war in Malaya, where the author Stan Arneill served under him. And that name, Black Jack, Arneill says Galligan gained the name Stan because he maintained a part of his formidable reputation.
Last night at the Macquarie Fields at Spears Point wasn't to be the Newcastle KB United's team's best performance, as they lost the game to Marconi 2-0, therefore incurring their first home loss for over 12 months. Mark Jankovic was the man that set up the 2 goals for Marconi in the first half. Coach Ken Kaiser said after the game that nothing went right for the Raiders. Joey Senkowski at one stage had chipped a brilliant ball over the keeper's head, only to find the wind hold it up and the keeper regather. Former England international Mike Shannon, who is guest appearing with the Raiders at the moment, hit the crossbar with a powerful drive, again robbing KB at least a chance to equalise. But Kenny Kaiser was optimistic because Newcastle KB United still retain their second position on the National Soccer League ladder for 1983.